is Gwatney Unplugged with Scott Romine.
We got Shawn Maves here. Wrestling seems to be plagued with this steroid problem and dying young.
Do you remember Kurt Hennig?
Mr. Perfect.
Earlier.
Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, Kurt actually also struggled with drug addiction. 44 years old. Sadly, he passed away from cocaine intoxication, and his father actually claims that steroids and painkillers also contributed to his death. You know, really sad. I remember watching Mr. Perfect. I used to like watching some of his wrestling moves, and, you know, really sad when you die at 44 years old.
Yeah, it's sad because everyone loves a story where people turn their life around or they give their life to Christ, and, you know, like the Shawn Michaels story, and there's other stories like that, but bodybuilding and wrestling seems to be plagued with this steroid problem and dying young.
Yeah, it's no question. There's definitely a current trend of guys in the wrestling business and pro bodybuilding, you know, shaving 10, 20, 30 years off their life because of, you know, the steroid use and all the other stuff that comes with it. You know, I've talked about this on the show I co-host up here in Canada at the Cross Live. You can't really beat addiction without some help from above. You know, any God's help. We tend to overestimate our ability, you know, to conquer these addictions. And
I've heard that Shawn Michaels, his wife getting him into church or something was the big turnaround for him.
I think that happened during his retirement. She was praying for him, and he came back. It was on the CBN, one of the Christian television interviews. Apparently, his wife invited him to church, and next thing you know, he joined the Bible study, became a Christian. And you know that there's other wrestlers, Scott, I'm going to mention this, that have not come out of like Shawn did. Yeah, you can't talk about the that era without talking about Jim Helwick. Actually, 7 years ago, of course, Helwick was inducted in the Hall of Fame, and he had made amends with McMahon, Jake the Snake, and Hogan on the same weekend. And how tragic! 3 days later, he passed away. Do you remember that?
Isn't that something? I mean, isn't that just? He makes the Hall of Fame, and he's dead less than a week later.
Yeah, it's no question. He walks out of Phoenix hotel room, dies of a heart attack. You know what? To me, it just reminds us, tomorrow's too late to say you're sorry. One thing I really like about Jim is he made amends. He went around that Hall of Fame weekend. He apologized to a lot of guys. You know, it just reminds us, today's the day to forgive. You know, I talk about this on Facebook. You know, God has forgiven us. We should forgive others also. You know, He's commanded us to do that. Tomorrow could be too late. Well, the hard thing is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, mid-'80s, late 80s, early 90s, that was the best. One of the main guys back then was Randy Savage. Remember him?
Macho Man! Yeah, of course I remember him. Yeah. The cream rises to the top, doesn't it?
If you go on YouTube, you got the top 5 Macho Man interviews. The cream rises to the top. It was one of the top interviews. You know, the guy wasn't the biggest wrestler out there, but he had charisma. He looked like a bodybuilder. He was good in the ring. Like, one of his favorite moves was a flying elbow drop. He would go in the corner of the ring, and he'd jump and he'd land and he'd slam the guy with his elbow. I don't know how these guys do all this stuff without injuring themselves. It's pretty good. It's another kind of, you know, question mark. What happened there with Randy? You know, that wasn't his real name. He passed away early. I think he was actually driving his Jeep with his wife or his partner, and he passed away. I think he had a heart attack or something.
Yeah, he did. He sure did. But in Florida.
I don't think it was the impact. I think it was the actual heart attack
yep, that's right.
Cardiac arrest or something.
That's exactly right. Hey, we're talking with Shawn Maves. We're talking wrestling. We're talking bodybuilding. We'll be right back here on Gwatney Unplugged.